Romeo in Romania. There it is. So, very cool.
You know, a lot of these cars over there now are coming with driver's helmets. Have you guys seen that? Like if it's a race car, it's going to
Little ones,
yeah,
or
it's
what?
going to come with a 1/64, well, maybe a little bit bigger helmet.
How are you supposed to wear that?
You don't. You just don't wear it.
It's for your little head.
I mean, if you
What's
you
the
can
point then?
you can find a place in your body to fit it. I'm sure you could. I can't.
David and I both went there.
Yikes.
Not at the same time. That would have been weird.
Yeah.
Ho ho hee hee.
The old Diecast Breakdown sword fight.
Never crossed the streams.
On guard. I will see you and I'll match you with...
Oh, man.
Diecast Breakdown after hours.
After dark.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Grossy Diecast.
Okay.
It doesn't count if it's in a podcast.
Doing it for the clicks. All right. Let's dive right in here. Let's get it rocking and rolling so we can get back to our day.
You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Diecast Breakdown. I am seated, as most often always, with my co-hosts, Mr. David Johns.
Hey, everybody.
And Mr. Mark, who has still not figured out the audio format of this podcast, but that's okay.
Hi.
I love it. All right, so we're going to talk with Romeo at 164 Customs on Instagram in a little bit. He is a really cool builder and a fabricator, and we had a great conversation with him about the creative process and what it's like building diecasts over in Romania. There's a lot of interesting quirks and features that he is going to highlight for us. But before that, gentlemen, tell us what's new and exciting in the world of diecast for you.
Well, there's some new talk of MK4 Supra, A80 Supra coming out from YM Models. There's kind of a prototype look at it. The hood does remove. It's a really cool, I actually have a buddy that has this same, pretty much the same Supra here. It looks just like it. So I can't wait to see what it looks like with a nice paint job and all the details under the hood and everything. So got the 2JZ in there, and I'll leave the rest out. But yeah, we're pretty excited to see that. And I'm sure that I don't know exactly where you can find this thing yet. Probably AliExpress and maybe eBay, or just type in, probably type in A80 Supra YM Models on the Googler and see where it pops up.
Gotta love that Googler.
Mark, that's a great one. I'm looking forward to that one as well. It looks really cool. DCM, a maker of really good quality diecast, has a couple coming out that look pretty good. Check out this BMW, this racer version. These look like prototypes as well, just like that Supra that Mark showed. But I'm really interested in this Rolls Royce from DCM. The hood opens, the trunk opens, the front door and the rear doors open like the suicide doors. It's really piqued my interest. I like that kind of stuff. Porsche has been graced with a collaboration from Tarmac Works and Schuko, being in Germany. So they know how to do a Porsche. I've got a Porsche 911 930 Turbo from them. It's amazing. This is going to be a collaboration with Tarmac Works, who also does killer stuff. So in May of 2022, look out for that release. It's going to be a really good looking car. Last one I want to talk about, and it's going to kind of lead into what Chuck has for us, is a Honda Odyssey from Stance Hunters. Stance Hunters, by their name, it's going to be Stance. It's going to be a little bit modified, but this one looks almost stocked. It's a little bit lowered, and it's a really cool Honda Odyssey. A little bit similar to the one that Hot Wheels did a while back on the cargo carriers line, I believe. But this one looks a little bit more stock and a bit more premium of a model, and I'm probably going to pick it up. So that's what I'm looking forward
know
to.
you are.
Stuff that I learned about this past week.
Well,
All right.
that's awesome. You get the
Thanks, David.
kids to the soccer practice really stylishly.
I believe they are called a shaggin' wagon, Mark.
And if the Honda Odyssey is too sexy for the folks over at Round 2 have got you covered. They just dropped a series of videos showing their 2022 updates for all their different lines, which Round 2, as you might know, is Johnny Lightning, Racing Champions, Auto World. They do slot cars, they do model railroads, they do all sorts of really great miniature stuff, really cool group of people. We're hoping to have them on the podcast soon, so stay tuned for that. We've already kind of started talking with them, so nudge, nudge, hint, hint, please come on our show. But yeah, they just did a series of videos updating their lineup, and it's got some really good stuff. Racing Champions is kind of going back to its roots and doing some stuff with the NHRA and doing some partnerships with John Force and a few other really cool drag racers that releasing some of their castings from early 2000s to present, kind of funny car line, which is very cool if that's the kind of thing that you're into. They're also doing some more stock style drag racers as well. So based on like Chevy Nova that's coming out for Racing Champions. Auto World has really piqued my interest because yet again, my extended family is getting their cars made into diecasts in that they are doing an 84 through 1990s. That's basically the first generation, really boxy Caravan and Plymouth Voyager. Those are, of course, the vehicles that folks of my generation grew up getting shuttled around in. My family had an 85. And I think it's really cool that they're doing a spread like that because they did change up the headlights and taillights a bit around 86. And so that's really cool that they're going to be representing the full lineup there. So definitely keeping an eye out for those. Those are excellent diorama fodder, weathering potential on those because those things lasted about a year before the paint started peeling off them.
What?
And just classic 1980s Chrysler stuff to go along with that Conquest that they got coming out. There's definitely something in the water when it comes to Mitsubishi 3000 GTs because they're doing their own Mitsubishi 3000 GT to go along with Matchbox and Hot Wheels releasing brand new castings on the 3000 GT. Whoever it is that is working on their campaign that's pinging all these different builders about Mitsubishi 3000s, let's talk 64 Valiants next time. And because good grief, they also have, and this might be interesting to Mark, the early 300 ZX. They will be releasing the 80s version. That mid-80s version, the doorstop.
First turbo vehicle.
And they got a few other things coming along on their 118th side. They've modified a few existing castings with some new hoods and stuff, but those are the big ones that I'm paying attention to. So shout out to Round 2. Go check out their YouTube channel for a bunch of videos showing their latest updates. One last thing from me is Majorette has announced that they are doing their version of the 69 Dodge Charger. It has an opening hood, and that's what I'm going to say about that casting. But they are doing it. So keep an eye out for that one. So thank you, Majorette, for yet another 69 Dodge Charger casting that spawned so many more General Lee builds from here.
Did the Auto World information that you found, did it clarify if they were going to have stale Cheerios on the floorboards of the Caravan and Voyager?
Only Goldfish crackers for now.
That makes sense. All right. Thank you for clarifying.
But yes, a shout out to Tony
Check
Caramizo over at Round 2. He is the designer over there that handles their line, and man, he's bringing the heat with these 80s and early 90s vehicles. So you can definitely tell that we are drifting into that target sweet spot when they're bringing up the cars from our childhood that we didn't think twice about then and are now have our weird Stockholm syndrome nostalgia for. All right, well, that's going to do it for news. So before we go to break, Mark, tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
We are going to be talking about finding a healthy spot for you in your collecting and talk about maybe downsizing and selecting certain things that bring you the most joy.
All right. Very cool. We're going to Marie Kondo this thing. So stick around.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. Here's this week's small channel shoutout.
Cedar Throws Diecast and more.
If you have a favorite Diecast channel with less than 700 subscribers and you'd like to see them highlighted on a future episode, email us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com. We'd like to take a moment to thank our executive producer level patrons, First and 64th Customs, Video Geek Productions, Matchbox Mark, Jonathan Von Nesh, Donald Rashik, and Twice Diecast. Please stick around till the end of the episode for our full list of partners and learn how you can support this project at diecastmedianetwork.com. And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
All right, we are back, and we are going to be talking about quantity versus quality. This is something that was heavy on Mark's heart. So, Mark, the podium is yours. Take us to church.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Taking you to church here. Recently, there is a large diecast shortage. I don't know if anybody has noticed that. There's not a lot of Hot Wheels on the shelf. But I went to Walmart recently. I went there for another reason, but of course, you got to check out the diecast. And usually first. Yeah, it's like, I got to go get some milk, but let's go see the diecast first, and then we'll go see the milk. See if there's any milk left. But there's some new diecasts that I didn't have yet, and it was basics. And so I went over there and I was picking through them, and there was nothing that I really had to have, because normally I would walk out with like 10 or 20 of those, because it's new and I got to have it, right? You got to grab all the ones that usually, yeah, you got to. But I ended up grabbing like 3 or 4 and then ended up putting them back because there was nothing that I like absolutely have to have. I'm trying to scale down my basic collection because it gets a little out of control. And there's nothing wrong with people that collect a ton of cars and they collect the whole series and stuff like that. But if you're trying to find a healthy balance on not having way too many basic cars, like thousands of basic cars that you're going to put away and maybe never revisit or even remember that you have, I think the biggest thing for me is I want cars that I want to display or to modify and just have them up and available to look at or share with others. But the ones that you just buy to put away, it becomes, where does it end, right? Because if you've got to have one of each of these brand new cars, there's so much stuff coming out nowadays, like crazy amounts of recolors. And so it's hard to keep up. You know, the Carrera Porsche that was yellow, blue, white, black, and silver. And I think there might have been one more. It's like, do I have to have all those recolors? Probably not. So it comes to effect on like you just kind of evaluating what you have, what you really need, and what you don't really need. But I think it's nice if you can think of others first and pick up stuff that maybe your buddy's looking for, or maybe your friend has that car and you can get it for him and give it to them. Because when I was there at that Walmart, there's 2 guys that were non-collectors that were looking for the 4Runner. They were looking for the Toyota 4Runner because that one, his wife had one, and the other guy had the car, and they couldn't find him anywhere. So I took down their Instagram handles, and I'm like, I'll help you find those cars. So just got to work together and help people find what they're looking for. But it all comes down to what's healthy for you on your collection. There's people that have 5,000 or 10,000 cars, and it works for them. They've got the funds or the room to do it, so it makes sense, and it brings them joy. So there's nothing wrong with having a huge collection, because a lot of us do, but sometimes it gets to a point where you want to downsize, and I'm at that point right now.
So you make some fantastic points, Mark. I really like the fact that you said when you're buying every awesome new one that comes out in every new case. Right now, because Hot Wheels is killing it on more details and new castings, you might be looking at 25 to 30 new castings in a case. And if I bought that, I don't have a whole lot of money left over for gifts for friends. You're spending your whole time and wallet buying stuff that the other point you had ends up sitting in a jammer in a closet that you don't even see. Kudos to you for bringing up that point. That's a great point. It really changes your focus when you're real selective and you're downsizing. It allows you to think of others when you're out shopping instead of going down that checklist of every new case that comes. So I like that point.
And you brought up a good point too, David, which is the time factor. Like I love hunting, especially for older diecasts. And so that means visiting a lot of thrift stores, charity shops, flea markets, and all that takes time. And it's tough as a customizer. You want to have as many raw materials as possible at your disposal. So when it comes time to do the custom, you've got the largest amount of parts and resources available. And finding the balance with that as far as do you need 15 copies of every car? That's the thing too, is like you usually want to have spares if something goes wrong. But at the same time, I'm looking at, I've got hundreds of pounds of Hot Wheels at this point that are all stored. These used cars that are in, plastic bins that if I customized a car a day, I'd have a decade worth of customs to do. You have to be realistic too and go, okay, well, some of these cars I'm just never going to get to, and they're going to get passed on. But at the same time, I'm still out there hunting for new stuff because I love that dopamine hit of the hunt. But that's taking time away from the customs that I should be doing, or getting my workshop back together, or doing stuff around the house so that I have more time to build. Time is money. Even if you don't have money, it's still like, it's an opportunity cost that you have to factor in. And what are you doing with your time? And I briefly got into that whole like super treasure hunt thing because I enjoyed the hunt so much, and was doing the thing where I was going to Walmart every day. And this is back when, they were being regularly stocked, and had to realize, what am I doing? I'm burning so much gas and spending 2 hours a day going to the 3 Walmarts in town and the Target and looking and getting nothing. I got some really decent chases and some cool stuff for my collection, and I was able to give some people some cool chases. But at the same time, the amount of time I was spending and the amount of gas I was spending, I could have been building customs, or I could use the money that I was spending on gas to order the thing that I was actually looking for off Mercari or eBay or AliExpress, and get something really cool instead of coming away with, well, I'm here, I might as well buy 5 or 6 more of the cars that I already have, and just to have them in backup. And what I've been doing is any cars that I already have doubles of that are still on the card, because sometimes I just, don't have time to uncard them. I'm putting them in a bin now for Mark's Hot Wheels for Hope project. So those are all going to be donated. So some people are going to get some really cool cars, but they're mostly mainlines, but they are ones that I would have in my collection. That's a good way to start parsing things down. Is there a lot of ways to like donate your existing collection, or find other builders that can benefit from them as well, and share that love, keep the goodwill going in the community, and make somebody else's day while you're at it.
Absolutely.
So Mark, explain, when you were thinking about this topic, explain where your mind jumped to that made you think, I got too many, I'm buying too many. Like, just kind of walk us through your process. I know a lot of the fans are probably going through the same thing, or they will soon.
I think one of the things when someone says, hey, do you have this car? You're looking for a specific car. You're like, gosh, I know I have that car, but where is it? And you've got all these bins of cars, and you're going through it. You have a lot of duplicates and cars that you've got just too many of, right? I'll admit it, because I've gone overboard with certain castings where I've got 20 of Datsun Z's from 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But the good news is I kind of knew going into the future that I'll be giving a lot of those away. And I love to throw in an extra Datsun Z or 510 in somebody's box for a giveaway, or just send someone the car randomly. But because you can't find that stuff anymore. So it's nice to have some extras of things. But at the same time, like when your Hot Wheels room like kind of becomes like a disaster, I've got cars everywhere, and you really start to forget what you have. At that point, if you have too much, there's people out there that don't have much of anything. And if you're sitting there going like, I don't even know what I have, then for me, that's kind of changed my perspective on having too many cars and who could use these cars, like whether it be another collector, modifier, or charity, basically give these to some kids that would really enjoy them for this next year when we do another fundraiser. And it was a pretty good feeling recently walking out of a Walmart where there's a good selection of diecast and not walked out with anything. That was a good feeling, to be honest with you, because it's rare. Because usually there's that sense of I have to walk out of here with something. Do you really? Not necessarily. And you know that car, like if you don't grab those, I mean, you may kick yourself a little bit eventually, but there's always somebody out there that may have that car that'll get it to you. You have to remember that because it's that feeling of missing out. You feel like you're missing out on something because you didn't grab that car. Well, you got to remember there's people out there that'll help you get that car if you regret not buying it. Because like, let's say like I've got the yellow, blue, and like red Datsun 240Zs that you don't find anymore. If somebody needs one of those, just hit me up. I'll get it to you. Because it's like a 4 or 5 year old car, probably 5 years. And if you missed out on it then, you got somebody else to help you out later in the future and get you that car. So don't buy things just because you feel like you're going to miss out on never getting that car again, because that's probably not.
That's a good point. I can't tell you how much buyer's regret I have too from feeling like, oh, well, this car came up on eBay and it's $12 and I haven't seen one in a while, so maybe I'll nab that one. And then, of course, 2 days later, you see it on the pegs for half the price, or you go to a thrift shop and find one, or you go to a flea market and find one. And so anymore, unless it's a car that I know is hard to find and is not in circulation currently, I don't buy it, because it's, or especially if it's one that I know I'm not going to be able to find on the pegs, I could buy it. If it's one that there's a chance, even if it's a remote chance, that it'll show up on the pegs at my hobby shop or at the local big box store, then I'll let it slide. And more often than not, I am rewarded with that a few days later. There's this feeling, and all these sites are designed to create this feeling of scarcity and this feeling to click buy it now. And you don't have to buy it now. Like, that's the thing, is you've got other stuff in your collection that you can focus on and you can buy. And it's weird saying this now, and being a member of the RLC culture is interesting, because I bought that 62 Ford, and it just arrived in the mail, and I'm very happy with it. But at the same time, the reason why I bought it is because I'm going to be using it as an upcoming giveaway on this channel to like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on that. And that's probably what I'm going to do with most of them. The ones that I buy, is they will be giveaways on this channel, except for the Tradesman. That one I'm keeping, and probably the Power Wagon, but that's another thing. But anyway, because I'm fortunate enough that I have a job where I can afford to buy that, and B, I'm available at a computer when it comes time to buy it, I can take advantage of those. And at the same time, put one more out there that doesn't get scalped or doesn't get price gouged to high heaven. I think that's kind of my way of managing that collection as well, because there's that feeling of having to be a completionist, which I am certainly guilty of. I've bought several sets just because I'm like, well, I gotta have the set, and then I'm like, why do I have this? I don't even like this car.
Can we talk about the freedom, like Mark just said, walking out of a Walmart when you know that there are castings that you like? If you're choosing to downsize, to me, I'm not trying to make this hokey, but you're taking control of your hobby, instead of feeling like every month you've got to hit those pegs for stuff that sits in a jammer in a closet. I'm with you guys. Like, if I buy it, if I want it to mean something to me and I want to display it, I certainly want to open it. Let me go ahead and open it, if you don't mind. Mark always sings that, in case you guys are wondering.
Oh, I don't think they've missed that.
So yeah, just to buy something just to stick it in a box, that to me feels like, I don't know why I'm buying it. And listen, we're talking from our experience. How you do your collection is totally up to you. We're just letting you know the thoughts of three idiots that have happened to have come to the point where we wanted to think about downsizing our collection.
It's true. There is a weight to what you own, even if you're not physically carrying it. Like, there is a weight to knowing those bins are in your house. And speaking as the three of us all have older cars and collector cars too, like, that's something that can really get out of hand really fast. I had to move with the Valiant completely disassembled, and you want to talk about total nightmare. Thank God I know somebody who has a rollback truck, and that I could call in a favor, and he moved the body of the Valiant for me, and we were able to move the rest in my pickup truck. But the hobbies take a toll, both physically on your freedom to move around and on your mental weight of knowing, just having that sitting in the back of your head. And I agree with you, like, and coming from the big car culture, especially the older car culture, where people will buy up all these cars that are cheap and then have them sit in the back 40 and rot away. And when somebody else could be getting enjoyment out of them, that's one of the biggest pet peeves of mine of that hobby. At least here, you can usually store them inside. Although I've seen, one of my flea market guys just released a set of like 2,000 Matchbox cars that this guy had, and he put them in Rubbermaid tubs. They were all carded, and he put them in a shed in Florida. And I don't know what he thought was going to happen, but after 20 years of sitting in a shed in Florida, the cards were all rotten. The cars were worthless because they had basically just soaked in plastic and wet cardboard. So I got some good castings to customize for really cheap. But like, that's the thing is, what are you doing with the cars? Like, are you enjoying them? It's nice to know that they are, sure. Anymore with the internet, you can pull up a Hot Wheels wiki or a Matchbox wiki and look at pictures of them, watch videos of other people sharing their collections, get that vicarious enjoyment out of them. And maybe instead of snapping up a bunch of castings that you kind of like, you wait a few months and you buy that one casting that's your white whale, or your like, and I'm not there yet. Like the fact that David has 400 cars in his collection, like that terrifies me to have only 400 cars in my collection, because I'd be like, well, what if I need this? But it's funny because now as I'm revising my other hobbies and going, okay, this feels like the diecast thing is sticking. We're going to be doing this for a while. So maybe I need to go with Transformers, and maybe I need to let go of 1/18th scale, and maybe I need to get rid of the 1/25th scale kits, because I've got over 100 of those that I'm definitely never going to build. Also, anyone listening, if you, the troll dolls were
the troll
definitely
dolls
weighing me down. I was getting buried in a tsunami of colorful hair. Anyway, what I'm thinking about, yes, I'm getting rid of a bunch of 1/87th scale stuff. So anybody listening who wants a screaming deal or has a really good cause that I could donate them to, please let me know, because I need to get rid of those. And I don't want to, those are ones that I don't want to take to the thrift shop. I want to give them to someone who will actually use them. Not somebody that will just buy them and put them on a flea market table.
Thanks, man, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Are you going to take us home with your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are just do what you want to do. If you want to have a huge, giant collection, you've got space to put them out. You've got the funds to do it. You've got the love for it, then do it. For all those people out there, if anybody's kind of feeling weighed down a bit by how much they have, then downsize and help others out that maybe want, it's okay to downsize and to get rid of some cars. Or there's nothing wrong with selling off your cars. I mean, we won't get into all the pricing and everything, but just be fair with people if you're going to sell off some of the stuff you've already paid for, because that's not scalping. It's just downsizing, basically, and you can recoup some of your money if you need to. If you don't, then just give them away. So if you're in that spot. So I'm just going to leave this with just saying, you could feel a little bit more free with less cars, or maybe you need more cars. So just whatever makes you feel best.
Well said. And with that, we are going to take another quick break. And then when we come back, we are going to be talking to someone who is making a lot of really cool stuff with a relatively limited amount of collectible vehicles available to him. Romeo, or as you might know him on Instagram as 164 Customs with a K, is going to be joining us. And he's going to be talking about getting started in customizing, how he's keeping himself inspired, and his tips for those who want to get started in their own customizing adventures. So stick around.
Don't touch that dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages. Can't get enough Mark McHot Wheel? Subscribe to Dotson Man Diecast, Auto Peak Detailing, and the Dotson Man Diecast podcast today. Diecast Breakdown would like to thank Diecast Heroes Magazine for supporting this program. Diecast Heroes Magazine is the premier digital and print resource just for diecast customizers. Visit diecastheroes.com and see what the best customizers in the world are up to.
Let me go ahead and open it.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
Well, we are really excited today because we are joined all the way from Romania by Teodorescu Romeo. I'm sure that was terribly pronounced, but we're going to call him Romeo so I don't embarrass myself any further. But Romeo, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Romeo is a customizer, and he is on Instagram at
164 Customs. One word.
So Romeo does some really awesome customs, and we're looking forward to talking to him and getting to know him a little bit better and getting to know the world of diecasts in Romania. But first, Romeo, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the world of diecast?
So I started 15 years ago, probably 16 now, in 124 scale diecast. That's a hard start for anyone with that big a scale and customizing. We didn't have Facebook, Instagram. I think they were barely starting out. We used forums. It was a pain. You would post a picture, wait 2 days, maybe get some responses back, some feedback. Parts were hard to get by because the scale, as soon as you scale up, parts kind of are scarcely available, and anything you have around the house may be used, but you got to work it out. You can do the cut up a different car and use parts, but It's hard at that scale. The paint looks awesome. You can use 2-3 coats of paint, 2-3 coats of lacquer, polish the not polish, cut the paint, rub it, buff it, polish it. You can actually use something bigger than a Dremel, like a palm sander with a buffing pad. They come out awesome. And there's a lot of stuff you can do, like lighting. You can use fiber optic cable and LEDs, but those are kind of hard to do even at that scale. But it was a rough start, and I started doing Hot Wheels 10 years ago. It's this March, pretty much, on the 5th. And my girlfriend at the time bought me my first 3 Hot Wheels. Well, actually new stuff. I had some as a kid, but they never made it. And I started collecting ever since. I used to buy everyone, like everything that was new, maybe got doubles of some. And now I'm just buying what I want.
Do you remember what that first casting was? Like, as a kid, do you have like a specific casting that you remember that was the first one that you were like, oh, I really like this?
It was a green Porsche with a yellow interior. So it's either a Matchbox 911 or a Majorette 928. I have a black and white photo. I remember it, but I can't find those at my parents' place. I don't know what happened to them.
Would it be safe to say, Romeo, that cars have been something you like since as far back as you can remember as a kid?
Yeah. Every toy I ever had as a kid, a month, maybe month and a half after getting it, it was apart. I took everything apart, everything. Kicking myself now for it, but
hey, you got the use out.
Well, you lit the fire.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned 124th scale, because I was a 124, 125th scale builder around that same time, and you're right. There was a forum called the Model Builders that I was a member of, and it was really sparsely populated. There was maybe like a couple of dozen regular posters, and like you said, you'd upload your photos to PhotoBucket and then post the photos in the forum, and then you'd wait like 2 days, and maybe somebody cool would respond or respond to somebody else's things. But it felt like it still felt very much like building in a void, and you didn't have 3D printing, you didn't have the kit bashing resources that you have now. Like, you had to get it, like you said, either made by yourself or scavenged from another part. Scavenged? Yeah, I speak English. I'm great at English, by the way. You're speaking better English than I am. So that's really cool. And so at the time, like 10 years ago, what was diecast customizing like? What was the scene like that?
well, being in Europe, everyone was doing VWs, Opels, Vauxhalls, Mercedes, vans, anything you can get your hands on. Some American models. I think I had a Dodge Viper. I kind of ripped it to bits, used the engine in, David's going to kill me for this one, a Citroen, an old one, I forgot the name. I tried to do like a resto mod with wheels and the V12, but it was kind of out of scale. The only one I still have is an R35, an R34, and the shell of a Monte Carlo SS that's made into a diorama. But that's it.
We know that you know your way around a shop to customize a vehicle. Do you buy cars just for the sake of collecting diecast cars as well? Like that are never ever going to be customized?
Yeah, I pretty much buy all the variations of an R34, RX-7, RX-8, and some Porsche. Anything else that's out there, I'm either looking at it, can I use some body parts? Can I use the whole casting? Or do I need some small bits, like a pretty good engine from fantasy cars or something like that?
That's right up Mark's alleys for sure. And David's too with the Porsche. So tell me a little bit about what it's like shopping for diecasts in Romania.
It's pretty bad across the whole of Europe. Like a normal mainline is $3 and up in physical grocery stores and stuff. And for maybe the $5 online, because they gotta add taxes and stuff on imports, and all that goes back to the end buyer. Most of the stuff you can get like mainlines, pretty much any physical grocery stores and stuff. Online you can get some of the premium sets, but with at least 6 months delay between release and when you can buy them.
So guys, Romeo and I were talking a little bit briefly in the past, and collectors in Europe face a pretty strict, almost like an import tax on anything from outside the EU. And Romeo, plenty of fans in the EU as well. Do you have any tips for finding diecast for folks in the EU that don't want to pay these crazy taxes when they buy things from overseas?
The easiest way, go on Facebook groups, search for collectors in other EU countries that also have an eBay store or eBay ships to that country. We have someone in the UK that's helping us out. We buy stuff from eBay UK. We send everything to him. He gets the packages. He breaks them down. Then he ships it over here. So you have to pay twice the shipping cost, but it's worth it. Or, as Diecast Dude said, toms.nl, one-stop shop. You do pay a little more for lower amount orders. Like I think it's under 50 or 75 euros. You gotta pay a little more for shipping. But if you group 4 or 5 guys, you'll
in Romania, like you said, you find them at like the grocery stores and stuff. Do they have like specific hobby shops, or are there diecast or toy-based stores that you can look at as well, or are you just looking at kind of like general goods stores?
As physical stores, pretty much any grocery store. There's a couple of chains that are pretty famous and popular in Europe, and you can get them in there. As for hobby shops, there's only one store here in Romania that actually gets Hot Wheels, but pretty scarcely. They can get mainlines, but everything else that's premium, it's kind of hit and miss. Maybe they can get them. You can send them an email, ask, would you be getting this one? Maybe a timeline. Any other brands, like David should know these, like Shuko, Aerocar, Sparky, anything else, they have them in stock. Hot Wheels, it's kind of hit and miss. The same with Matchbox. As for hobby shops, most of them are only 172 scale, 144 scale, military, plastic kits, Bandai kits, not so much for diecast.
Yeah, over here, it's kind of the same over here for hobby shops. We have Hobby Lobby, which is like this giant one-stop craft store, and they do have diecasts. That's kind of like one of the few chains besides like the big ones like Walmart or Target that have those kind of things. But as far as like large-scale hobby shops, like we used to have Hobbytown USA, kind of sort of still exists, but Hobby Lobby kind of drove them out of business. But yeah, that was always my experience too, was like shops anymore, the ones that are surviving, they're making all their money off of, over here RC cars are huge. Like you get so much stuff for RC cars, it's not even funny. We actually our shop just expanded to the point that they've actually taken over part of the parking lot so they have a racing and stunt track now, which is actually really cool. But you know, it's just like, I'm like, yeah, that's not really my scene.
Hey, Chuck, you can get some of those Hot Wheels RC cars and
yeah, I've seen those. Those are showing up in stores now, and I'm really kind of tempted to pick them up and make my own custom cars, like swap the bodies on them. But at the same time, I was just going to say, but I feel like that's cheating, especially after watching all the work that he puts into his custom RCs. But yeah, those are bananas.
Yeah, if you search on YouTube, there's a guy that did a body swap, but the weight kind of kills it. It's just a plastic shell, and even on a normal R35 metal body on top of it, it kind of dulled it down.
Yeah, so it's heavy. It's weighty, as Mark would say.
So I'm just going to be David for a second. Now, Romeo, if you had a magic wand that looked like this, and you could go anywhere in the world. Wait, no, this is the wrong show. That's next. Yeah. What diecast would you bring into existence? I'm changing the question up. So what if you could have anything in the world, like that doesn't exist already, what would you bring in?
Something I would want in my collection. 1/3 scale R34 Bateside blue in plexiglass as a coffee table.
That is original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was ready.
I think he thought about that question ahead of time, guys.
If you Google 1/3 scale Aston Martin DB5, there were 3, I think, made for the latest James Bond movies. Okay. And yeah, they sold one for £28,000 or something ridiculous. So that's what I got the idea. And like, if I had one of those as a coffee table,
it'd be an R34, Bayside blue. Me, I'm more of a midnight purple guy. So
nah, you need the lighting for that one.
If you could have a real size car in the world, I'm sure I could probably answer that for you. Would it be an R34 Bayside Blue?
No.
No? What would it be?
R34 GTT 4-door in white. Because you got to think about the family.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's going 4-door. Okay,
Yeah,
family car.
you got a
Family.
Yeah, family car. It's like Dom says, family.
everybody drink. We said family. No. Well, that's what you get a trailer hitch for. You just toss them in the trailer in the back. You get a nice caravan camper on the back. And
Nah, open trailer, helmets on.
there you go.
Are there any particular brands that you like customizing?
I mostly stick with Hot Wheels because of they're easy to take apart, not too many fiddly bits. I know they lack lensed headlights and taillights and a lot of other stuff, but they're so easy to work on. I did the green light Silverado. It was rough. The casting's really thick. There's a lot of internal supports and triangulation done on the inside of the body. And if you want to do anything as blower or something, you gotta start grinding those down, and it takes forever.
Wow, that sounds like a nightmare to me. So,
Yeah, there's a friend of mine in Australia. He did a Bianti, if you believe it or not, for a customer. And that thing came out in 16 million pieces. Like the headlight was one piece for the actual headlight, a separate piece for the turn signal. The inside buckets were two different pieces. The badge, it was a Ford, the actual tiny Ford badge came out. Then the normal grille came out. The windows are all in 16 pieces. So yeah, some of them are worth it if you have the time and the patience to work with them, but you gotta be really careful, especially gluing them.
What kind of glue do you use typically?
I use liquid super glue and gel super glue with baking powder if I need some strength in it. And sometimes I may use white PVA glue for windows as it doesn't fog up. You can get model shop for model kit. I think it's called Crystal Creek glue for canopies and stuff. But the price, it's not worth it. I think I had a sample or something like 2 grams in a small tube. It dried out in a year because I never used it.
I have ruined more windshields thinking that they were far enough away from the fumes from CA glue to not fog up. And
unless you're going for the hazy look.
If you ever get hazing, cotton buds and cooking oil. Use sparingly because it's gonna smudge and
I've always just had to polish it out. I just got out of buffing wheel, just like, here we go again. Polish.
Johnson's baby oil, any oil. Just dab it on, wipe it off. It's gonna get rid of the hazing.
Cool. That's good to know. It's good.
There's our top tip of the day. So let's talk about some of these customs here, because I love your customs. Like, you've got this awesome take that you did on the 8 crate that I want to ask you about with the surfboard in the back, and you've made it look like an old Ford Fairlane with a convertible top. And walk me through that build. Romeo's holding up a beautiful blue and white Ford Fairlane with a convertible top. It's made out of the Hot Wheels 8 crate. So tell me, let's talk through start to finish, how something like that is made, what goes into it, what kind of time it takes, that sort of thing.
So this was for UK Facebook group build off. It was the January build off, and the theme was pickup truck. That's all you had to go on with. Whatever you can imagine or do, go ahead. And I had the 8 crate around. I think I took the engine from it a long time ago. And I just had the casting. And I was like, let's see what... I think I searched for retro-futuristic pickup trucks or something on Google. Google's your friend. Whatever you think of, type it in, it will pop up some pictures. And I started to see the Art Deco of the 60s pretty much. And then I saw the two-tone paint job. And I think I know that casting. I think I have it. And I pulled it up. It was pretty much the same. And how can I make this a pickup truck? I was going to leave the roof on. But it looks so I just took it all off. More of, what were they called in the 60s? Surfing wagons? And that's why it has the surfboard on the back.
Do you think you could actually surf with those boards, Romeo?
No, hell no.
Well, you don't know until you try.
About how long did it take from start to finish to do the build?
I would say a week, pretty much a week and a half. Because cutting it up and stuff, it's easy, but waiting for paint to dry, finding the right wheels, that may take a day or a couple of hours. And I had to make the tubs in the inside from scratch. because it doesn't have any tubs.
Nice. Yeah, when we were talking with Yogi. I thought it was funny that he was like stealing the lids off of his Vera's syrup bottles to make fenders for motorcycles. So I was like, "Yep, been there." Yeah. Depends on the plastic, yeah. So yeah, you've done like some really epic builds, and if y'all haven't gone over to 164 Customs, that's Customs with a K, and check him out on Instagram because Romeo's built some epic stuff. And if you get Diecast Heroes, which you should because it's an amazing magazine, you'll see some of Romeo's other builds. And one of the ones that I've got to ask about, look at those. Those are awesome. I love the THX 1138 car. That is super cool because that's a real deep cut movie car. Not a lot of people build that or recognize that. And it looks like it's straight out of the movie. You've got your, what is it? It's not an Eclipse, is it? 240.
The 240 SX.
Yeah, you got the 240, which has got kind of that ratty street rod look, which I love. And what's the other one?
It's a BMW Z4 that's made to look like Darth Vader.
Z4, Z4.
There you go.
Z4.
Yeah. So for those of you in Europe, it's Z4.
Zephyr.
But you have built some really wild and wacky builds too. And I got to ask about the Pac-Man build that was in Diecast Heroes, because that one is amazing. So tell me the thinking behind this one, because it's just incredible.
That's pretty cool. Is that a zoom in?
No, it's too big to be a zoom in.
Gosh, I was excited for a second. Now I'm let down.
Pac-Man kind of ate my childhood. As any 90s kid knows, Pac-Man, Super Mario. And as soon as I heard like a gaming theme, I knew exactly Pac-Man. There was one build in the 80s, I think, like a real car that's called the Pac-Man. And that's when I got the idea pretty much of the shape. That one's cut a little bit deeper and the seats inside, but mine was supposed to be an actual character. And then I was like, okay, I can make the Pac-Man. What else? What can I do? So I just took a 1/34 scale base, and all of these are custom jewelry fake pearls stuck on sewing pins. And I did one corner of the maze.
Is that magnetized?
And yes, it is magnetic.
Is that magnetized?
I should have done in the beginning was scale it out so he can actually stand like that, like in the actual game. But going for the 3D effect.
Yeah, I love that personally. I love that too, because that's something that you don't really like think about is the actual perspective of what it would look like in the maze. And it's terrifying, first of all, because you don't know what's coming around the corner. But yeah, it's really.
And I never mentioned the basic casting I use is called the emoticar. It's the helmet with the face that spins around when you roll it.
Is there anybody on social media that you really draw a lot of inspiration from that you just can't wait for their next project to come out?
Yeah, but it's broken down into several categories. I say there's designers, there's builders, and there's illustrators. So it's kind of a mix of all of them. Like everyone knows Kaiser Celine. That's his RX-7 made into a convertible. I use the Porsche 918 back end. His windscreen's a lot shorter, like more of a Jaguar D-Type, I think, that had a short windscreen, but it kind of looked off because the humps were higher than the actual windscreen if it was chopped. So I just left it as is. Again, from him, his black Porsche 911.
That's awesome. Yeah, love that engine detail on the back.
Another designer is Walter Kim. He pretty much does sci-fi stuff, and this is my take on his NSX.
Yep, that's a Chuck Ellis special right there.
Now I've got more stuff that's relevant to Chuck. Then you get into illustrators, and that's where the hard stuff starts, because he can make a render, a drawing, and you can scratch your head 6 ways trying to figure out how to make it. And this one, the actual renders is made by a guy called Grim40, like it's GRIM40. And I think David will recognize the casting, maybe.
Hold it up a little bit.
It's kind of hard because it's not like it used to be.
I mean, you've done a lot of modifying. Shed some light on it.
So this is the Gaz 13 Chaika that you sent to Naz, the 4-door one. Yeah. And I chopped the back doors and glued it back together.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
I hope. And the render's pretty much 90% there, even the handwritten text, the number.
So the Chaika, Romeo, correct me if I'm wrong, it was almost like a Russian knockoff of a 56 Chevy Bel Air.
It was a mix of 60s cars from the States, pretty much. But yeah, pretty much like you say, a Caddy grill and front bumper with some Chevy fenders, more of a Bel Air, something or other back end with the notchback tail lights. Everyone copied everyone.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love.
Yeah, they were mostly government official vehicles. And the last one I did from him is actually this one.
Yeah, walk us through that one.
So this started off as a MAZ 535, hence the number. It had 8 of the big wheels, even in the front. Chopped it back here. It had I think it's called a stake bed with the tarp on top. Took all of that off. Lowered the body in the front. Hot wheels, because you gotta do them. The engines from back hauler, I think it's called, or something. One of the ones with the sliding bed on the back from Hot Wheels. The exhausts are all made from lollipop sticks. The tanks are made from styrene. The scoops are from a Cool One ice cream van. The diffuser is all made from scratch. Again, he had a render of it pretty much like this. I'm gonna ask Chuck to pull up the pictures I'm gonna send. And this one was entered in Hot Wheels and Coffee's build off for 2021, and it got me my second place, my first ever trophy and a win.
Congratulations, Romeo.
Thank you. Lastly, the guy I follow, his Instagram handle is Frywork. I'm gonna send it as well to David. And he pretty much does World War II era futuristic race cars and construction vehicles. This thing started as a 56 Merc, I think, that Hot Wheels released, and it's pretty much a fighter bomber race car.
That's wild.
And if anyone asks, yes, I did mangle up a 172 scale Messerschmitt just to get the parts from.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
I am, speaking of that, Romeo, just because I'm thinking about it, I have found on AliExpress that you can get 164 scale airplane models now fairly affordably. I don't know how much they are to ship into Romania, but shipping into the US from Hong Kong is not that bad.
Pretty much can get them relatively cheap from hobby shops, especially some of the stuff that doesn't sell, did some clearance. So I'm never gonna buy it just to build it. I'm gonna buy it for parts.
Right. That's the thing, though, is like finding any model kit in 164 scale over here is very hard. Like almost all of them are 172 or 148 scale. So, but I was very pleased to see that there were a couple that were coming out in 164 scale. There's a couple of World War II airplanes that you can get. There's a few older kits that I've been able to snap up. I actually have an eBay alert set for 164 model kits that I dig through every day, hoping to find something new. I just picked up an old Yak aircraft from Russian aircraft from World War II. That was a 164 scale kit that has been out of distribution for like 40 years. But I was able to get a good price on one.
Well, Romeo, what is the future? You're extremely talented. It looks like you love what you do. So where would you like to see your art? What's the next level for your custom work?
Honestly, I would love to see it displayed somewhere. Maybe in a hobby shop, have one of those IKEA 4-layer display cases. Just have it there. Maybe people ask around, have some business cards next to it. I may do some commissions. I'm still not 100% sure because, as we talked earlier, I can build you a custom. Like one of the first ones that really blew up for me was this.
Wow.
This is a Kia with an exploded parts view. I could have done more
I love that one.
with parts. And someone actually asked me, can you send this to me? I want to buy it. And I was like, if I send you this, I need to send a pot of super glue, some of the paint I use, and hope it gets there in one piece because it's not going to make it.
I did a Veterans Day build over here where I built a Chevy truck and I auctioned it off. And it pulled in like $200, which was awesome. I donated all of that to a Florida-based homeless shelter for vets. But I felt so bad because when it arrived, the guy showed me a picture of it because I thought I had packed it so carefully, and it was in like a bunch of pieces. And he didn't mind, but I know I feel you on, especially something like that where you've got a lot of narrow pieces and there's not a lot of support on it like that. Are there any diecast organizations or any groups, like you mentioned that Facebook group that you like to post builds with? Are there any particular build-offs that you regularly participate in?
Yeah, there's the Diecast Details Facebook group. They have a build-off every month, and the winner of the previous month chooses the theme, or you can do a poll with some of his ideas and some of the basic ones, or he can just, I don't know, do a poll on whatever you want. The point of it is, if you win once, don't choose a theme that's easy for you to win again. Because what's the point of having the same person or the same guy win over and over and over and pretty much see the same type of builds every month? Keep it fresh. That's why if you go on my page, there's no two builds alike, pretty much. It's either the techniques different, the castings, nothing left of it, or most of it's left. And on Instagram, it's called Diecast Underground, and he does a monthly build off as well. This month's build, I didn't take part of it because it's called the Carolina Squat. For those of you that don't know, it's get a SUV 6-inch or more lift in the front, and slam it in the back. So you're pretty much driving by the clouds.
Yeah, they're kind of popular in North Central Florida too. It's called the Palatka Squat or the Carolina Lean. And Palatka is a local kind of rural area where these bro trucks are very popular, and they are testing my patience on my motto to live by respecting all builds. I am really trying to understand this here. It took me a while. I finally found out why they do it. It was Baja races. Like the Baja trucks sit lower in the back because when they do their jump, and the super trucks and the Bajas, and it's true in RC cars too, because when they're sitting low in the back, if you're going over a jump, when you land, you're more likely to land on your wheels if the back is sitting lower than the front. And somehow that turned into the Carolina Lean, and they threw these ridiculous wheels on them that would not help you in a jump at all, like the whole car. So the entire point of that stance is for jumping, and these are absolutely not trucks that would ever be jumped or driven off-road at all. It's just a good way to make sure that your headlights shine straight into the rearview mirror of the car in front of you, and that you can't see 6 feet in front of you.
From the second story up.
I know of Dacia. They make cars in Romania, right? Are there any other automakers there?
We used to have an off-road one. It was called Aero, like R-A-R-O. They usually did 4x4s, utility 4x4s, civilian 4x4s. They had a contract with Toyota to supply the engines, I think in the mid-2000s, and then they went bankrupt pretty much.
Gotcha. Do you ever try and use like a Dacia? And am I saying that right first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever used one in a custom?
I think I have one in a shame box, but it was a 1/32nd scale or 1/34th, I forgot. Because the only ones, if you Google Dacia 1300, there's, I think, the earliest one with the oval headlights. There's only one manufacturer from Spain, I think. It's called Guisval or something like that.
Yeah.
That did, it was actually, the Dacia was based on the Renault 12 from the French, because Dacia and Renault have a pretty long lasting partnership. And they did a 1/64, but it's really rough, and better leave it alone instead of cutting it up or doing anything to it, because they're pretty old, they're hard to come by.
Do you like the Duster by Majorette? Have you seen that?
You mean this one?
Yep. There you go. That one looks a little bit different than mine.
This is the Pikes Peak edition from 2009, I think, when they ran a Duster Pikes Peak. And I think this one's kind of more similar to yours, but mine's made as a model kit in 1/64 scale, because we were talking about it earlier.
So that's really interesting. I didn't realize, is that how the packaging came, or did you make that?
No, I made I pretty much took what I could save from the card, and everything else 1/24 scale plastic kit sprues, cut, sanded, added supports, and did the base, the interior, and the glass.
Yeah, that's really unique.
There's the wheels, there's the spring for the suspension inside, and the casting itself.
I've seen where people have done that with a full-size car and made it look like a model kit, and that's really cool.
I think there's a Mini Cooper in a museum somewhere in England.
I've seen it with the VW bus too. And now I noticed you also have done a couple of mashups, like sort of Transformer Gundam car builds. Tell us a little bit about that.
This was a Gundam model I found in a charity shop, second-hand store. It was pretty cheap. I built it, and I had it sitting in a drawer for I don't know how long. And I think I watched one of the Transformers movies, and there's a black Lamborghini. I forgot his name, Lockdown or something, or who knows. And I knew I had the Gundam kit, and I was like, I should do a Lambo. And I used an Aventador. It has the back quarter of a quarter panel in the legs. The doors are on the back, the hood, and I think that's about it from the casting, because I couldn't save pretty much anything else.
That's really cool. I just saw Andrew over at Maple Leaf Customs just did a knockoff, like a pretend Transformer build with a dollar store knockoff Transformer, and really cool, like almost is like a Voltron type thing out of multiple cars. So I think that's kind of one of the newer, more popular things that I've seen people trying out. That's one that I definitely want to try when I'm back to building again.
If you search on Google 1/64 scale Transformers or Hot Wheels Transformers, there's a blog post from 2013, and they actually do transform.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's a VW Bug that turns into a bug. He did a couple of Thunder Rollers, and they actually do transform and turn back into a car.
Yeah.
This was the other one. I did a Bone Shaker with a knockoff Lego minifigure.
And there was also in the latest issue of Diecast Heroes, somebody did a build that was all Datsun Bluebird wagons. That one was really cool too.
What would be your favorite part about just modifying Hot Wheels? Like, what's your favorite part about like the build? Is it like the finishing of the project or the starting of the project, or what's that favorite point in each build?
It's the research in finding the right casting and what can I do or how can I make it look like a render or an idea I have, supplies, materials, what I gotta cut, what I gotta put back. Because building something, even like everyone keeps griefing that wheel swaps and repaints are not customs. Yes, they are customs in a way. No one's knocking that. You can go pretty much extreme, but even a normal wheel swap, and you take, I don't know, a 4 or 5 layer paint jobs with pinstripes, masking, layers. That's not something anyone, but most of us can do on a normal car. Scale it down to 1/64, that takes some talent, practice, but pretty much, yeah, the research and the planning ahead.
Yeah, I feel you on that one, because I mean, I get the frustration of doing like a high scale technical build and then getting lumped in with wheels, swappers, and painters, but at the same time, there's like, so what? Like that doesn't take away from your technical skill. Like, these are people that are also enjoying the hobby too. You want more people in the hobby, not less. And there's actually, I think there was one Facebook group that I left because they were banning people for posting wheel swaps and paint, like not even like not approving them, like banning them. And I was like, really, that's rude. But
yeah, it's called, I think it's the same one. It's Advanced Hot Wheels Customizing or something. And I am on that group as well. And yeah, there were many posts like, please stop posting wheel swaps, please stop posting repaints, you'll get banned. So there were a couple of warnings before.
Yeah.
But I mean, anyone that does a custom these days, this was my first real custom. I mean, instead of repainting and changing wheels, I used a hacksaw and actually cut the base exactly across the rivets, glued the bumpers, and sunk the interior in. The paint is normal acrylic painters, but artist acrylic like you get in a jar. And in the right light, you can actually see that the casting is green, still has the flames, the tempos, everything on it. That's how I started. That's how anyone starts.
Mm-hmm.
You drill them apart. You gotta build from somewhere, because no one's gonna walk up one day and I'm gonna do this. Yeah, but you're gonna fail. You're gonna use a Dural saw, you're gonna break 16 blades before you cut a door off. you're gonna get pissed, stuff like that. And this was, like I said, 9, almost 10 years ago. I wasn't building as much. I did 100 customs in 2 years pretty much.
Wow.
But that's where everyone starts. Wheel swap, repaint. And with time and experience, I'm just showing off, you can get to kind of this level.
Wow. I love that.
It's amazing. Yeah, and you make such a great point, Romeo. We all got to start somewhere. And if you have the passion, nothing is a failure. It's just an opportunity to learn how to do it better next time.
I have a box full of no one must see project and failed stuff, and that's how you learn. That's how you learn a new technique, a new process, what not to do, something you can do again in future builds.
What's something maybe on your radar that you're dying to try? What's in your head as far as your next big leap in a custom?
Pretty much I want to get into lighting, pretty much. There are some kits you can buy, but if you take into account the circuit board, even if it's pretty small, the battery, the switch, blah, 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 you're losing the interior. And if you want to do a convertible that has running lights, brake lights, you're not going to get, you're either going lose the interior, do a normal saloon, black out the window so you don't see anything inside, or figure it out. I mean, something as easy as this, cool. And if it's going to shut off before I finish talking, it's just a simple circuit. It should. When I tap it, it doesn't want to. The circuit inside is really small. I can actually, now you start. Oh. I can actually show it to you. So it's that big. 2 batteries, a circuit board smaller than a penny. Those bouncy balls that have the actual, you take one of those that's dead, cut the ball open, take out the inner ball, crack it open, there's your circuit. For a normal, simple police build, nice. It's perfect. Stick it in and you're done. For other stuff, you need surface mount LEDs, 0.001 wire, soldering irons, batteries. It gets messy. But if you have the time and patience to learn that stuff, it can be done. You can buy kits that people have made and have experience in doing them, but they're pretty much expensive. 20, 30 bucks or less, depends on where you're from, where you can get. But yeah, pretty much lighting.
That's great information. If you guys have ever wanted to add lights to your customs, I never would have thought one of those bouncy balls that's activated by motion. That's a great idea, Romeo.
Is there any one particular piece of advice that you want to offer somebody who's looking to get started in custom?
Ask questions. Even someone as big as Jakarta, myself, there's other people that do better stuff than I do. Don't be afraid to ask. When I started 3-4 years ago, really getting into customizing, I think it's still up there. Go to Facebook and My Custom Hot Wheels. There's a mentorship section, and you get joined randomly with someone that's a mentor. That's how I met Jade at Cthulhu Customs. He's from Australia. We did the whole steps with the program, and he was like, I don't know what else to teach you because you know the basics. We finished that program, we started chatting, and it's been going on for 3 years. We chat every Saturday, go throw ideas back and forth, but never be afraid to ask how you did that, when I can start. And one thing, don't ask specifically what products someone use. Because I can use Tamiya model paints, I can use Tamiya spray cans, but they might not be available where you're from. You may have some other brands. See what's local, see what you can afford. Don't buy all your tools at one time, because no one ever bought everything and started customizing. I needed a hacksaw, I bought a hacksaw. I needed a Dremel, I bought a Dremel. But I never went full out because you're going to spend so much money, it's going to be a chore.
Very cool. Well, Romeo, I can't thank you enough for joining us. This is really fun. It's nice to finally meet you face to face and get to know you a little bit better. One more time, let's tell people where they can find you, follow you, all that good stuff.
So I'm on Instagram. It's 164 Customs with a K, one word. I have a YouTube channel I haven't posted in 2-3 years or something. I think I have only one video that's a bunch of customs that I did a long time ago. I may start doing that again, but pretty much Instagram is where you can find me. And on Facebook, some of the bigger groups for Hot Wheels collectors and customizers, I'm pretty much on there. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm happy to help.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you again, Romeo. We really appreciate it. It's been a delight chatting with you. And we will be sure to have you on again, and you can update us on your next wild and crazy builds. So, well, we'll catch you next time.
Yep, my pleasure as well.
All right, well, that was very cool. It was very nice to get to know Romeo. He's been a great member of the community. I've seen him on pretty much all of our videos, and really talented builder. You see him in quite a few issues of Diecast Heroes. He's going to be in plenty more, I'm sure. So keep an eye on him. Be sure to follow him and drop by and say hi. He's a very gracious dude and was very happy to answer a ton of our questions. And he's eager to help other people in the community, which resonates true with us because that's why we're here.
What he said.
Ditto.
Thanks so much for coming on, Romeo. We look forward to, having you back someday and see where you're at, see what kind of builds you've done. And I appreciate all the encouragement for people just starting out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to talk with Romeo as well.
Yeah.
He'll have something cooking. You know he will.
Absolutely. He is an incredibly creative dude. And I love his take of taking renderings from other folks and using inspiration from other artists. I've got a Pinterest board that I do that as well. And I've got so many great ideas. And again, like we talked about earlier, getting to where you can downsize to the point that you can actually do the thing that you are setting out to do rather than just hoarding the supplies for it. And it's something I struggle with every day. I've been struggling with it too. And again, if you need help or you need someone to talk to about it, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach all three of us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com. If you've got access to folks locally, local counseling that you can talk to, this stuff can get out of hand, and it is something that should be taken very seriously. So if you feel like you are losing control, or if you are feeling despair from the hobby, please again seek help from a professional or from a local organization. It helps with those sorts of things. So as always, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to support what we do, you can visit diecastmedianetwork.com to support us on Patreon. You can hit the little join button down at the bottom. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts, follow us on your favorite podcasting app. There are so many different buttons you can push for us, and we love it when you push every single one of them. So thank you again for hopping on, joining us. We have got a whole bunch of really cool guests coming up very soon, so be sure to like, subscribe, follow, bells, all that stuff. Until next time, stay fresh, use bags. Just go with the classic. No outtakes.
Yep.
We're going to stop encouraging him.
Yeah, he's just like,
that is definitely what you should do with kids. Absolutely do not encourage them.
Or me.
Mark is like our kid.
All right, ladies, I got to go work.